For this week's topic, I'm discussing, in addition to Austin's issue with climate change, is its issue with income inequality. Um, so, for instance, African American and Latino residents account for 42% of the total population of Austin, Texas, with white and Asian homes having a median average income of $75,000. Black and Latino homes have a median income average of 42,000. This is accounting for basically 66% and 73% of the median average income across all racial groups in a 2016 study, while accounting for 75% and 83% of the median average income in 1980. So that means that these racial demographics aren't seeing the same rise in income as the white and the Asian community. Because in 1980, the white community, or white households rather, had roughly an average income of 52,000. Asian households had roughly 48,000. Where those two household incomes are now, Asian represent 78,000 and white homes represent 72,000. So I think a large part of this is because in the 1940s and the 1930s, Austin had designated areas for what are considered Negro and Latino districts. So they were areas of the city designated for those two racial groups to live. But even after desegregation laws were passed, these communities really didn't experience any rise in racial equality when it comes to their income. For instance, property values of white and Asian homes are worth almost double the property values of Asian and Latin homes. White and Asian properties are worth roughly about $34,000, where African American and Latino properties are worth about $170,000. I think a big part of this, and that ties into the second question about kind of how Austin's history ties into the environmental movement. Austin's pretty forward-thinking when it comes to how it handles its environmental decisions, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be kind of leaving two of its major racial groups behind in income, and I believe that has to do a lot with the public education system. Austin does provide a fair opportunity for its residents to achieve at least a high school education, with 98% of their white residents having at least a high school diploma, 92% of the Asian population having a diploma, 89% of blacks, and 68.4% of Latinos having at least a high school diploma. It's good across three demographics to a certain extent, but it's lacking in the Latino department. I think a lot of where the income inequality comes from is the quality of education that these individuals are receiving. They're able to get a job because the labor participation is very close across all racial demographics, although African Americans have an unemployment rate of 9%, which is almost triple the amount of the next closest racial group. It's great that these individuals across the board are, for the most part, getting an education, but I think it's the quality of the education that Austin and probably the United States in general needs to work on, kind of get away from the Common Core curriculum and the No Child Left Behind ideology, and get into a little more focused education plan that's a little bit more sustainable for these racial groups, because they're learning, or at least they're getting they're showing that they're at least capable of getting an education based on whatever metrics that the Texas education system is providing, but doesn't mean that they're thriving or they're learning the necessary things that they need to kind of get ahead in life, or at least get to the same point that a lot of other racial demographics are.